I always say, oh, you're not going to see this because it's a silhouette, and then I watch Brittany's videos and you can actually see quite well. So I'm hoping you can see these two raptors very nicely too. A pair of African hawk eagles. Whoever was naming them was a bit undecided as to whether they were hawk or an eagle, so named them both. I have a feeling we've spoken about them before and I've told that terrible joke. But they are one of the more common medium-sized raptors that we get here. And so characteristic. You always see them in pairs, flying around together, perched together. So even from a distance, when you see two eagles sitting like that, there's a really good chance that it is going to be these African hawk eagles. The dark brown to black feathers on the back, and then speckled white breasts. Very good raptors that specialize mostly in going for small game birds, smaller mammals, but yeah, particularly things like your francolins, spur fowls, and guinea fowls are high up on their choice of items to consume. About 8 hours later than we started this morning, caught up with that same male elephant that we began with in our introduction to this episode. He's probably about 3 to 4 kilometers away from where we had him this morning. His feet are wet, so he's obviously been for a drink, and now just strolling through the more open woodlands of the northeast. Tapping in the wood of a woodpecker. Bearded woodpecker who's hammering away at this knob thorn. Other bird calls you hear from some red-billed buffalo weavers that are busily constructing their nests in the opposite end of the tree. This tapping that we're seeing now from this woodpecker, this is in search of food. They spend a lot of time looking for insects that are active just below the bark of the tree. And you know that it's doing that rather than digging a hole for nesting because it's moving around so much. It's actually where most of their woodpecking activity comes from, is from feeding, not from making their own holes. Don't film this. This is not meant to be so difficult. We mentioned this tree earlier in today's episode, the umbrella thorn. This is a perfect example, or one of our better examples, of why it's called an umbrella thorn. That nice, large, flat-topped acacia, something that's very typical of Africa. Can't talk today. Should have had a longer nap. You typically associate them with the open grasslands of East Africa, but they're a very common tree down here in the Kruger region. One thing that does make it stand out as an acacia is that it's the only type of acacia that has both shapes of thorns. So it's got these white V-shaped thorns, which are characteristic of the Vachellia genus, and then it's also got these pairs of very sharp backwards curving hooked thorns, which are more typical of our Senegalia genus. Remember from the last episode, the Vachellia and Senegalia both used to be called acacias. They've now separated, and one of the tells is those, or are those thorns. But this one is part of the Vachellia genus, so it means it also gets nice round yellow flowers. And the extra growth of these thorns is no doubt as a result of competition and co-evolution with browsing animals, and most likely giraffes. Giraffes are a species that has, in a way, helped shape the growth of the trees that we find on the woodlands of Africa. These thorns, as we mentioned earlier, they don't actually stop the browsers from eating the trees. They just limit the speed at which they are able to consume the leaves, And while the browsers are busy and active on the tree, it has got the potential to start increasing its tannins, which is going to make the leaves more bitter, and after a few minutes the browsers will move on without doing as much damage as if there were no thorns, and nibbling through this without anything to slow it down. The different color of these branches, if you're wondering, that's one of the older branches, got much harder, more solid thorns. These are just the new shoots. This is what the giraffes are going to actually enjoy. And although giraffes typically don't eat the actual thorns, the hard thorns, when you have got a fresh shoot like this, they will nibble on them because there's a lot of nutrients and minerals to be found in these fresh shoots. So that is our umbrella thorn, Vaccalia tortilis. Unfortunately, our little leopard cub was a bit short-lived this afternoon. We will try again tomorrow. Fortunately, there's still enough meat to keep Ntombi there overnight. So just making our way back to camp and come across a breeding herd of elephants. They've been leaving tracks all over the reserve. It's about time we caught up with the herd. Some quite jovial and playful youngsters. But yeah, been a much more pleasant end to the day, a bit of colour in the sky, clouds are breaking, the wind has stopped, the rain is gone, so hopefully we will be enjoying some fine weather tomorrow. Good morning, and I know I sound like a broken down record moaning about how cold it is, but today's properly cold. Because of our difficulties in filming last week, the weather conditions, we're doing back-to-back episodes of Surf Safari for you. It is a much cooler morning. The clouds have broken, the wind has stopped, but it should be a beautiful winter's day here in the Timbavati at Tandatula. After I signed off with the elephants in last night's drive, then everything woke up. There were wild dogs calling to the west, lions roaring to the west. There was a male lion roaring close to where we were. We spent about another hour out there looking for it, but to no joy. So they are still around. But what we're going to do with this episode is start off going to check on Ntombi's and her cub, maybe cubs. We only saw one again yesterday afternoon, very briefly. We were hoping that a fat-bellied youngster will be relaxing in the tree this morning. So we're going to head out there, and then we're going to scratch around, see if any of those other predators that were out and about late yesterday evening are still around today. So come along for the ride, stay warm in bed, and we will show you what we see. So we are back with Ntombi. She, as you can see, is fast asleep. Belly full, eyes closed kind of pose, sprawled out there. Still a bit of meat left. They're going to be here all morning, probably into the afternoon. Haven't seen any sign of the cub or heard any movement. So I think we're actually going to leave it for now, and we'll come try late in the morning once it warms up. Hopefully the cub will be out and a bit more visible. But yeah, we're going to go scratch around, see if there's any sign of lions or those wild dogs. Fingers crossed. This is something I've never actually seen before, and I think that these jackals are hoping that we wouldn't see them doing this for a couple of reasons, but they're busy mating. And you might think, no, that's not how it normally happens, but and sorry, this might also require some parental advisory. Because they're a monogamous pair, there's not this need to mate repeatedly like lions do. Their repetitive matings induces ovulation, and that's what is going to release the egg and allow that to be fertilized. But that's because they are polygamous. Males have many females, and it's to prevent females from falling pregnant by random males. But because this is a bonded pair of jackals, they don't need to waste their time proving their worth to their female. Everything else they do has done that. So when they mate, it is really just one or two long sessions that ensures that what needs to go or be transferred is transferred. But when they do it, his penis actually kind of swells inside and locks the pair together. So what's happened now is that even though we've arrived on the scene and they probably would normally have run away, they can't run anywhere because he is literally locked inside the female and he has to wait until that swelling goes down. So that's why they're standing looking like their butts are joined together, because in a non-technical way they are. At least they have each other's back. Yeah, they're obviously very vulnerable. If something were to come onto the scene now, there's no eject button, no quick release. They would be, I guess, running away like a crab. I actually don't know what would happen. It's obviously something that is, on an evolutionary timescale, not proven too disadvantageous. Otherwise, they would have evolved a very different system. But yeah, I could imagine if a lion or a leopard came onto the scene, they would see that and run in and try to do something. One of our resident troops of Chakma baboons. Don't always make life easy for us to film them. They're typically quite nervy of people and vehicles. This group, I think, on a cold morning, and although we're now 9:30, it's only just starting to warm up. They're still sitting trying to warm up in that sun. It would have been a very cold night for them in the high canopies of the trees here on the Shaolini River, and I think they got a bit of a sleep in today. See the impressive size difference between the males and the females. Grooming going on there, often quite a good indication of hierarchical standing within the troop as to who's doing the grooming and who's being groomed. The big male is going to come through on the right now. There are a number of males. There's a group of generally unrelated males that are going to be the dominant ones that protect the group, do most, well not most, do all the mating, and then lineages of females, matrilions, where hierarchical standing within the male order and then hierarchical standing within the females. Males achieve it through fighting, females can often achieve it by birthright and by socializing with higher ranking females. That. It's been a slightly tough morning out there, I'm not going to lie. Did have tracks for wild dogs, but from last night that led to nothing. So we've come back to look for lions, and we have got tracks at long last. You can see on the ground here tracks for our cubs, getting increasingly big. Not the freshest from last night, kind of before the dew settled on the ground. But they are heading up towards one of their favourite spots, Nyati Pools, so we're going to go check there. Otherwise, at least spend a bit of the morning following up on them. So fingers crossed that they show themselves. Let's do this. This is how serious we are about finding lions. We've even put Brit in the driver's seat. There we go. Look at all your zoom options you have. Sorry. I'm going to try track. The lion tracks go into this block over here. We did drive the road on the other side. I didn't see anything, so I'm just going to sit on the track seat and check more carefully.
Hopefully we don't bump into any elephants.
Let's hope we do. It'll be fun. I'll film. So my tracking job has come to an end. We don't find any tracks coming out of this block, nothing crossing the river, so I have a suspicion that they might just be resting in this thicket on the riverbank. We're just going to have a look. a beautiful pair of tawny eagles, not far from Ntombi's kills. I initially thought that they had been drawn by her carcass, but not by her carcass, I won't see that, but maybe by the hyena activity. But possibly looking for nesting material. It is coming up to that time of year for breeding for them. Looking at the displays of the one on the right, potential, yeah, could be readiness for mating. Defecate, and now it's going to take off. Normally a characteristic behavior that just before an eagle takes off it will defecate. And when you see that, you get ready for it to open those beautiful wings. But this guy didn't get that memo. Now that we are a little bit closer and seeing the more mottled plumage, could actually be a juvenile tawny eagle, hence the calling and the displaying, trying to get food from mom. But we're not the only one interested by their behavior. This hyena on our right hand side has also come to investigate to see if there's perhaps some scraps around. All these scavengers know one another's roles and pay attention to what the others are doing. Looking at all the scars and bite marks on that one. Either had a rough life or more than likely just one of the lower ranking individuals in the clan. Gets berated by all the others. An art of sleeping learned from its mom. Been sitting here for a while. CUB's been quite out of it. Just woken up now. Another hyena's arrived on the scene. Just sitting up to see what's going on there. Give it a couple more minutes to see if it's going to move out into an area of good visibility. If not, we're going to leave these two resting. Sadly, hasn't quite worked out the morning we wanted it to. We're meant to find you lions, wild dogs, and leopard cub out in the open. But I guess that's just being greedy. Should never moan about ever spending time in the presence of a mother and cub leopard, or mother leopard and cub as most people would probably term it. It's a beautiful branch just below where she's sitting that she could go and rest in, but she's opted for the very dense area, which is probably much better for her own safety and survival. Being able to blend into the bush is something she's going to have to learn to do very well. I know we should never hate on trees, but I'm hating on that branch right now. The leaves in front of its face would be a beautiful moment if that particular set of leaves was not there.